We live in a world that is just obsessed with numbers, right? Charts, stats, metrics. But what about the stories that those numbers just can't tell? Today, we're going to pull back that curtain on qualitative data and really dig into the human story that's living behind every single one of those statistics. Okay, so picture this. A company sees that a whopping 85% of its customers leave after just 3 months. Now, that's a powerful, pretty alarming number, right? It tells you exactly what is happening, but it doesn't tell you the most important thing at all. Why? I mean, is the product confusing? Is their customer service just a nightmare? Did a competitor roll out something they just couldn't resist? To get those answers, you've got to go deeper. So our first step here is a really crucial one. We're moving beyond the nice, clean certainty of a spreadsheet and stepping into the real and, yeah, often messy world of human experience. I absolutely love this way of thinking about it. Quantitative data, the numbers, it gives you the silhouette of a person. You can see their basic shape, but you have no clue who they are. Qualitative data, though, that fills in the color of their eyes, the sound of their voice, all the little details of their story. It's kind of like the difference between knowing a crime happened and finally understanding the motive. And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, which is the incredible, almost revolutionary power of just asking that simple question, why? So at its core, this whole approach isn't about counting things. Not at all. It's a mindset that values richness and depth and context. Its entire purpose, its whole reason for being, is to move past just observing something and get to explaining it, to uncover why things are happening the way they are. In the world of numbers, subjectivity is usually seen as this problem, something you have to get rid of. But in the world of qualitative data, it's the entire point. It's not a flaw, it is a data asset. We actually want to understand people's internal perceptions and their personal truths, because that is the engine that drives every single one of their decisions. So what does this kind of data even look like? Well, we call it unstructured, and honestly, it's messy. It doesn't fit into neat little columns on a spreadsheet. It's the raw material of human expression. We're talking interview text, social media comments, even video footage. And the variety here is just huge. I mean, we're talking about everything from formal interview transcripts and super detailed field notes, all the way to the casual, totally unfiltered thoughts people share in social media comments or those open-ended survey questions. It's data straight from the real world, in all its beautiful, complex, natural form. Okay, so if the data is this messy and this varied, how in the world do researchers actually capture it? Well, this is where the researcher's toolkit comes into play. With all this noise and all these different narratives floating around out there, the real challenge is, how do you tune in? How do you actually listen to the stories that truly matter? Well, researchers have a whole set of tools designed for exactly that, and each one is basically a different way of listening. So let's dig into a couple of the most common ones. Interviews are probably the one you're most familiar with, but this isn't just a simple Q&A, it's a really skilled conversation, and it's designed to get these deep personal accounts. It lets a researcher get access to someone's private motivations and feelings. The stuff you can never ever know just by watching what they do. And then you have something way more intensive, like ethnography. Think of it like method acting, but for researchers. This is where someone literally embeds themselves within a community or an organization. They don't just watch from the sidelines, they participate, they observe, and they get the real inside story on all the unwritten rules and social dynamics that dictate how people really behave. Okay, so you've done the interviews, you've got pages and pages of notes. Now what? How do you turn all that unstructured chaos into clear, credible findings? Let's take a look at the analytical journey. It might seem totally overwhelming, but there's actually a pretty structured process for finding the signal in all that noise. It starts with this meticulous process of coding the data, which then lets you do thematic analysis, and it's all with the ultimate goal of spotting those powerful, overarching themes. This is often the most mysterious part of the work, but trust me, it's where the magic really happens. Here is a perfect, really simple example of what data coding actually looks like. A researcher reads this quote from an interview. Now, instead of just highlighting it, they assign these conceptual tags or codes, like usability barrier or negative emotional response. They are systematically turning raw language into these little analytical building blocks, piece by piece. So after coding hundreds of these individual little data points, something really incredible starts to happen. Patterns begin to emerge. These reoccurring patterns, those are the key themes. This is that moment where all these fragmented individual stories start to weave themselves together, and they form this coherent, powerful explanation of what's really going on beneath the surface. This is where all the aha moments are born. All right, and finally, we get to the payoff. After all this work, what's the ultimate goal? What's the big prize at the end of all this? The goal is zero. Yeah, I know that might sound strange, but we're talking about what some people call zero quantification. See, the immense power of this entire approach comes from resisting that urge to just reduce everything back down to a simple number or a percentage at the very end. Because the goal isn't measurement at all. It's richness and relevance. It's about preserving the beautiful complexity of human experience so you can gain a deep and nuanced understanding that a single statistic could never, ever hope to provide. And look, this isn't just about making up interpretations with no rules. There is immense rigor here. In this kind of research, validity just means making sure the findings are credible, that they genuinely and accurately reflect the participants' own realities. Researchers are trained to constantly check and manage their own biases to maintain that integrity. And this is the bottom line. The ultimate output, the primary yield, is actionable insight. It's that deep understanding that allows leaders and policymakers and designers to make better, smarter, and way more empathetic judgments that actually solve the right problems for real people. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. The numbers. They can always show you what people are doing. The real question is, are you ready to do the work to truly understand why?